I've said before that we as black people in South Africa perhaps should not get the land back. I still somewhat stand by that statement, but at the same time, I think I need to qualify it a bit more. Every day, I try to educate myself. I talk to people. I gather information. I try to improve the man that I am by improving my knowledge, improving myself, improving my relationship with people, and improving my knowledge base, and of course, improving my perspective of the world and how things operate. Security guard was just checking if I'm okay. Appreciate that. It's not harassing me. That's really nice. Um, kind of lost my train of thought there. Sorry. The world we live in today has been curated in large part by Europeans. And this we see all over the world. They've gone on a huge conquest mission for years and perhaps for centuries, decades at the very least, around the world. And to be fair, they've quite succeeded. You see a lot of countries around the world where their languages are being spoken, their fashion is being worn, their companies are dominant. And this has happened over a long time that it now seems like it is the only history we understand and know. We believe that that is the way life is and that is the way the world is. Yes, there are certain areas that have resisted and certain areas that have pushed back. But in general, the entire European conquest regime has succeeded. We find ourselves in this day and age, 2023, or at least let me say in the 21st century, in a world that is based on an international system because we've now become so interconnected. This is an international system that is in large part built by European standards, built or based upon European standards. And we see this across the board throughout the value chain, throughout various systems that affect the economy. And these systems were developed specifically for a white regime, and they sort of made sure that they exclude everyone else in that. We were only included essentially as a workforce, as machines, as resources that could be utilized in order to achieve the targets or the missions that the European regime wanted to achieve. So, for example, if you want to build a huge ship, you get yourself a few slaves and you let them build it. Yes, the ship is going to take you and your team to wherever you want to go, but that team of slaves that built it is not going to be able to do that. Yes, maybe you'll take some of them so they can do some of that laboring work on the journey, but essentially they do not stand to benefit from this thing that they're building. So in a way, yes, the slave people were a part of the building of the system, but they were not meant to benefit from the system. And the system, of course, was built so as to fit within the cultures and traditions and practices of the European regime. Of course, it had to be English again. Wow. Had to be centered around whatever location that whatever system was being built around was built. Yeah. So what that then means is that we find ourselves now in a country, I'm going to come back to South Africa, in a country where we have a lot of land that is in the ownership of white people, and mainly it's Afrikaner people. And they've created these whole systems around that. Even the banking system acknowledges that you have some land with some trees and whatever. You can get certain amount of funding, certain amount of backing because you have that. Now, of course, this whole system and this whole value chain is centered around all these things, and the interconnection of these various aspects of this value chain ensures that it perpetuates the ownership and the wealth that is stored within these various aspects. When Black South Africans fought for democracy, one of the things that were on the agenda was the land issue. Certain people realized that actually us just having political power is not enough. We need to have economic power as well. And a large part of economic power is in the land. It lies in the land, because if you think about a lot of the aspects of the economy that are building this economy, there is land attached to it. If you're going to be building a bank, you're probably going to need a piece of land where you're going to build your bank and have your employees in there and have your vault where your money is going to be stored in. If you're going to think about mining, it's going to be a piece of land under which the resources are going to lie. If you're going to think about farming, of course, that's the most obvious one that utilizes land. If you're going to think about property, you're not going to let your property float in the air. It has to be mounted on solid ground. And these are the pillars that hold up the economy. The road that we have to build to transport resources, products, anything, it needs to be built on land. Our electricity, wherever it goes, there's a transmission grid that has to be built throughout the country. That is built on land. Of course, because the systems were built in our exclusion, it is not the easiest thing for us to simply fit into that system and be able to progress it. Building something is one thing, but maintaining it and progressing it is a difficult thing. And first of all, one needs to understand the value of a aspect of something. Just because, my father runs a business does not mean I should just come in and fit in and then just be the CEO or the COO of the business. Do I understand the business? Do I know what the business is about? Do I actually know how to manage people? Do I know how to execute things? Am I an executive? Do I know operations? Do I understand A, B, C, D, all the workings of a business? Just because I'm the son of my father does not mean that I can simply then take over his business. I need to be bred to fit into that system. And I think that is the analogy that is going to allow me to come back to the land question when it comes to Black South Africans. We did not grow up in a system that understands and values the land and what it means and what it can do and the things that it can bring. And some of the people who were fighting for the democracy of South Africa understood that very well. And they tried to get the ANC to say, look, guys, we don't just want you guys to fight for political power. You also need to fight for economic power. And of course, that didn't quite go as they wanted, because here we are. Perhaps we have the political power. Actually, we do have the political power, but we do not have the economic power. Economic power still lies within the hands of the few white people that had it even back then, and they're able to now progress it and teach others and expand within, their circle. The idea was that in us obtaining economic power, meaning in us having the ability to take land, we had to also develop programs and systems of training and grooming and ensuring that people are bred to understand the values of the land, the value of the land, values of the land, what it can be used for, what it can bring for you. For example, you go to a bank and you want to get some money, some funding. Having a good piece of land is the best chance you have at getting that. what that generally means is that a lot of black people do not have that advantage because they either do not have good land or they don't have land at all. So you go to a bank, you need to start something that is worth something, but you cannot be funded for that because you do not have any surety, they call it. And this is built into the constitution. It sounds like something small that okay, and it sounds like it makes sense that yes, whoever owns whatever can keep it. Essentially, if you um, own a certain piece of land, you get to keep it. Again, it sounds fair, it sounds like it makes sense, but then essentially what that means is that because the vast majority of black people do not own valuable land, they are not able to easily expand on their wealth and therefore are not able to now gain economic power. And that's where the struggle is. Yes, I don't think that we should simply just transfer the land to people who probably do not understand what it means. Like, it really needs to be to people who are bred to understand. And that's how I made the business example. That yes, I'm my father's son. Perhaps I'm the rightful heir to his, I want to say kingdom. Kingdom is not the word. I know it's not the word. Why is the word escaping me? Come on. Whatever. It's gonna do my head in. The rightful heir, but because I do not know how to progress this, how to maintain it, and at the very least, how to, not at the very least, but most importantly, how to grow the business, then I should not be one to inherit it. And I feel like right now, South Africans, black South Africans in particular, are not fit enough to be able to progress the land or know what to do with the land, especially if the distribution of the land is going to be by virtue of last name. Just because you whatever surname you are and this is where your grandfather used to live and then you are going to get that land, it's the same thing as me taking over my dad's business just because I'm his son. Like I don't really know how to do this. Maybe his daughter, who's like 10 years younger than me, is much better equipped to do this. Maybe some other colored girl child, is much better fitted to grow this company than I am. And they should be the one who's given the chance or the opportunity to do that and not me. But at the same time, he, my dad, would have needed to understand from an early stage that the person who's probably in the who's probably the rightful heir to this is this guy, and he should have bred me to want to be there. And if I don't want to be there, then fine, I don't want to be there. Then he's gonna have to find that colored girl. But then if he had bred me and showed me all the ropes and showed me the systems and made me understand them, I can then grow this and probably then be innovative and develop it much better, much further. But because we don't invest in that and we haven't invested in giving the knowledge to our people, I just feel like we've gone backwards. This is going to be the worst thing that we'll do to ourselves. Agriculture in schools has really taken a drop. It's really been devalued. It really doesn't mean no one is interested in doing it because we all want to be doctors, we all want to be engineers, we all want to be lawyers. We just want to work for the people instead of working for ourselves and building. But then we stand here and say we want the land. Honestly, I don't know what I'd do with the land. Okay, maybe I do. But like generally, the next person you're gonna find wouldn't know what they do with it. They wouldn't know what that means. And we see it a lot with people who are able to come into certain funds who still decide not to buy land, who still decide to go and spend their money in Germany or in Italy and buy expensive cars, or if actually even worse, in Britain. And that there is a sign to me that we maybe were ready 30 years ago, and that was when we missed it. We could have started there, taken it over, and started training people from a young age to be interested in farming and to understand the value of it, not just farming, but just understanding the value of land, and then growing from there. And then we can have a smooth, maybe not smooth, but then we can have an iterative transition or transmission of economic power from the powers that had been to the powers that now be. But I think because we do not understand the interconnectivity of all the systems and the value chains that operate within the economic system internationally, not just in South Africa, internationally. I think that without that knowledge, we're just not ready. And the opportunities were there during the CODESA negotiations. We could have done that. But of course, the white guys didn't want to give that away so easily, or at all, in fact. And yeah, at some point with the Thabo Mbeki administration, we had an opportunity to change that constitution, to change the part of the constitution that allows white people to keep the land that they have. Again, we did not take that. We did not take that shot, even with the appeals that were made to them that, hey, look, this is our chance, let's do it. They didn't make it. Perhaps there was foul play. Perhaps there was like threatening or bribery or whatever from the white regime to ensure that these guys do not let that one go, because once we let that one go, it's done. We didn't. And somehow we still devalued our education in general. We still devalued agriculture, and we devalued our understanding and our attachment to the land as a concept. And yes, now we want the land back, and I honestly feel like that would be a situation where I just want to take over my dad's business, where I don't understand what the business even does, what the business can even do, what the business can even grow into. So yes, I still think that we shouldn't take it back. But I do believe that we should develop a plan to transition into getting it back, so that we can then be able to fit into the system, because we don't have any other choice but fitting into this international system, because that's the system that exists around the world. And if we don't understand that system, we're just going to be there sitting there with our hands in our pants and not really knowing what we're doing with what we're doing, or even what we have, and no one will care what we have, because it's just going to be what you say you have, and you don't even know what to do with it. Like, do we even know where seeds come from?